Alright, this video is going to take us through the study guide for Chapter 8. So, looking back over Chapter 8, it's been all about volume. The volume of cylinders, cones, and spheres. And if you remember throughout each lesson, I've mentioned that you will not be given the formulas for the test. So make sure, we're going to write them on the study guide, but make sure as you study tonight that you get those memorized. As long as you have those memorized, then you're just plugging in numbers. And it's really simple. So the first thing we're going to do is look at the volume of a cylinder. So over to the side, over here, we're going to write the volume of a cylinder, or write the formula for it. So volume is pi r squared h. R stands for the radius, h stands for the height. So I'm just going to use that and plug in numbers. So volume equals pi is 3.14 times the radius squared. Well, remember, your radius is only halfway across the circle. So if all the way across is 20, that means halfway across would be 10. So 10 squared times the height, which is 6. So I have 3.14 times 10 squared is 100. Times 6. And then if I pull up the calculator here, 3.14 times 100 times 6. And you get 1,884. And our labeling that we're dealing with is in inches. So remember, with volume, it's going to be inches cubed. Okay, for number 2, same formula, just different numbers. So pi, 3.14, times the radius, which is 2, squared, times the height, which is 3. So we have 3.14 times 2 squared is 4, and then times 3. And again, I'll pull up my calculator here. We have 3.14 times 4 times 3, and you get 37.68. But remember, they told us to round to the nearest tenth up in the directions. So that 8 tells this 6 to bump up to a 7. So this is going to be 37.7, and our labeling will be millimeters cubed. Okay, so those were cylinders. Next ones we're going to look at are cones. So if we look down at number 3, out to the side we're going to write the formula for the volume of a cone. And if you remember from our lesson, a cone is just 1/3 of the size of a cylinder. So we take the exact same formula for the cylinder, and then we're just going to divide it by 3, or take 1/3 of it. So 1/3 pi r squared h. And again, we're just going to plug in the numbers. So 1/3 times pi, which is 3.14, times the radius squared. Well, the radius is 6, so that would be 6 squared, times the height, which is 7. So we have 1/3 times 3.14 times 6 squared is 36 times 7. Now, whenever I plug this into my calculator, remember, taking 1/3 of something is the same thing as dividing by 3. So I'm going to do all of this multiplication first and then divide my answer by 3. So 3.14 times 36 times 7, and then divide that by 3. We get 263.76. But again, if I'm going to round that to the nearest tenth, this 6 tells my 7 to bump up to an 8. So 263.8, and it would be inches cubed. All right, moving over to number 4. Same formula, same process. Volume equals 1/3 times pi, which is 3.14, times the radius squared. Now here they give you the distance all the way across is 12. So halfway across would be 6. So 6 squared. And then times the height, which is 4. Simplify this a little bit. 1/3 times 3.14 times 6 squared, we know is 36. And then times 4. So as I pull up my calculator, remember I'm going to do this string of multiplication first and then divide it all by 3. So 3.14 times 36 times 4, and then divide that by 3. You get 150.72, but again we need to round that. So this 2 is going to tell your 7 to stay a 7. So 150.7, and labeling would be millimeters cubed. Okay, so again, here was our formula over here, and I just took the information they gave me and plugged it right in with the radius and the height and solved it. Okay, the last shape we're going to look at is a sphere. Okay, so over here to the side, I'm going to write the formula for the volume of a sphere. So this one you take 4/3 times pi times the radius cubed. Okay, so on number 5, we're going to take 4/3 times pi, which is 3.14, times the radius, which is 4.2, cubed. So 4/3 times 3.14 times, and then I'm going to use my calculator to figure out what 4.2 cubed is. 4.2 times 4.2 times 4.2. You get 74.088. Now, whenever you plug this in, okay, we have the fraction 4/3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 4 times 3.14 times 74.088 and then divide all of that by 3. So we have 4 times 3.14 times 74.088. Divide that by 3. And you get 310.18176. Now, if we're going to round that to the nearest tenth, this 8 tells me to bump this 1 up to a 2. So 310.2, and then my labeling is going to be feet cubed. Okay, and then our last one, number 6. Volume of a sphere, you take 4/3 times pi, which is 3.14, times the radius. Now, the diameter all the way across is 6.8. So if I cut that in half, you get 3.4. So I'm going to cube that. So we have 4/3 times 3.14 times, and then I'm going to pull up my calculator to figure out 3.4 cubed. Oops. So 3.4 times 3.4 times 3.4. You get 39.304. And then again, just like I did on number 5, I'm going to take 4 times 3.14 times 39.304. And then divide all of that by 3. So that's what I get when I multiply and then divide by 3. And you get this great big long number. Now, whenever I round that to the nearest tenth, this 5 tells me to bump this 5 up to a 6. So we have 164.6, and labeling would be feet cubed. All right, so the main thing that you need to focus on studying for this test is going to be to memorize those 3 formulas for cylinder, cone, and sphere. And then all you're doing is plugging in numbers. So as long as you have those memorized, then you will be good to go.